Most people play video games to have fun and relax. But what if I told you that video games were actually the blueprint to my life's greatest achievement and led me to build $1 million business? Don't get me wrong, I enjoy playing games and making kids punch their TVs just like you do. But if you're only playing for fun, you're missing out on some serious financial wisdom. So today I'm going to show you exactly how I learned to build $1 million business, all by playing Fortnite. Fortnite, or some call it Forknife, has been one of the most popular games on the planet since 2017 when it was released. And if you've never played Fortnite before, basically 110-year-olds drop out of a flying school bus onto an island where they're all trying to kill each other before a purple storm does. Oh, and you can build forts. So I'll be honest with you guys, I have not played Fortnite in a hot minute. Why? I've been a little busy building my companies, but I likely would not have the business that I do today if it wasn't for Fortnite and the basic game mechanics that led me to discover ways to level up my own business. You see, when Fortnite first came out, I had a regular job as an accountant, and basically I just messed around in spreadsheets all day long, and I had about as much fun as you'd think I might have doing that. So over the years, I started noticing a hole in my life where I wasn't fulfilled with the work that I was doing every single day, and I just knew I wanted to help people with the finances, but I didn't know how I could actually do that. So then I started thinking, what are some of the biggest financial decisions that people are going to make in their lifetimes? And then it hit me. People buying a house is usually the biggest purchase that they're ever going to make. So then I started researching mortgages. I really liked what I saw, so I decided to save up for an entire year, and then I sold everything that I had, even my house at the time, so I could quit my job and become a mortgage broker. Most of my friends and even some of my own family all thought I was nuts to give up the $100,000 a year that I was making just to go make absolutely nothing. And maybe they were right, but what they didn't know is that the money didn't matter to me as much anymore, and I couldn't come home every single day after work and feel the way that I did for the rest of my life.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
But how was I actually supposed to build a business or even make any money? This was about the time that I started playing Forknife. And just like any other game, when you first start playing, you're probably getting cooked.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
I was no different. I was pretty new to the Battle Royale game style, but I played PUBG before, but after running around for 20 minutes, never seeing anybody and getting smoked in the back, I quickly uninstalled.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Get me off this game, okay?
But to get better at nearly anything in life, you have to figure out why you suck so you can stop being total garbage. I noticed I was dying a lot, mostly in close quarters and especially at the beginning of matches. And what weapons are most effective at close range? Shotties and SMGs. There's an old saying, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Or in Fortnite, never bring a pickaxe to a shotgun fight. The point is that you don't want to use the wrong tool to try and fix the problem. So when I started dropping in, I immediately started looking for close range weapons to try to get advantage on my opponents. And would you know it? I actually started winning some early game duels. At this point, I've been trying to learn everything that I possibly could about mortgages, but it was a struggle bus. Even when I actually found a client that would potentially want to use me, they'd go with another company because the other company would have a different, better solution to their problem.
Rejected!
And this was devastating to me because at the time I had just gotten married and I felt like I was failing and I wanted to provide for my new family, but it just wasn't happening for me. Then I remembered what I had learned in Fortnite. I was using the wrong weapon. So then I studied up on how to best help people in their specific situations, and it took a few months, but once I got the hang of it, everything changed. In mortgages, there are lots of different loan products, and there are hundreds of ways to structure those different loan products. And each person has their own goals and their own finances. So some people might have weird income, or they might have credit challenges, or whatever it may be, but that's what makes mortgages so much fun. Because clients have unique situations, and loans have all these different parameters and different ways you can actually use them, so it ends up becoming like this giant financial puzzle. It's similar to Fortnite. It's like if you're trying to shoot somebody from 3 feet away with a hunting rifle, it's probably not going to go very well for you.
Hello there.
Instead of understanding the situation and using the correct weapon to get the job done. Anyways, this was the first step in actually getting my business off the ground. I was able to close more deals because I was providing better value by using the right tools. And side note, if you know someone who's recently started a business, give them a hug and buy them a taco or something, because it's really freaking hard.
Taco flavored kisses for my bang.
So at least I was starting to make some money, but it still wasn't very much, and it definitely wasn't enough to live off of. and it was nowhere near my dream of making $1 million business. Now that I was able to escape the initial drop, I had to find a way to get better. Because what I noticed is if I tried to leave the landing zone and get engaged in another fight, I'd always get third-partied by some kid in an airplane or something ridiculous like that. If you're not familiar with what a third party is, let me clear it up for you real quick. It's basically when you have one team who's in a totally respectable fight with another team, and then a third party comes in and kills both of you and then teabags your dead bodies. Totally uncool. I was getting sick of getting third partied all the time, and instead of checking my monitor out the window, I decided I wanted to be the one to arrive fashionably late to everyone else's parties. So naturally, I grabbed the bush, and I waited. And I waited some more. And finally, our first third party.
Wait a minute!
No! God, please, no!
This party sucks. So I had to learn the hard way how to pick the right fights and how to manage third-party engagements. But if I was picking the wrong fights in Fortnite, maybe I was doing the same thing in my business too. So I did some research on trying to find the right battles in my company, and I came across this theory called the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule states that 80% of all outcomes result from 20% of all inputs for any given event. So in other words, 80% of your income comes from only 20% of your actions. And this was life-changing for me. I started thinking about how I could focus my time and energy on things that were actually producing results for my company. So I woke up the next day, I walked into the office, and I changed the entire structure of my company forever. But then I convinced one of my best friends, Ryan, to run the day-to-day operations for my company, which would free me up so I could go work on marketing and producing new revenue streams for my company, which is what I was naturally good at. And Ryan actually still runs the show over at my mortgage company today. We even saw a boost in revenue just a few months after the change. Even in Fortnite, I figured out that 80% of my kills were actually coming from 20% of my fights. So the trick is to figure out how to pick those 20% engagements to get the best results. Now that I had the right personnel structure in place, I was ready to blow it up. But how exactly do you do that? And would it be enough to get me to my $1 million goal? Now that I was getting better at using the right weapon at the right time and my overall positioning was improving, I was starting to get the hang of things. And I was feeling pretty good. Until some kid did this.
What the hell is even that?
I'm in danger!
What the heck was that? And the worst part is this magical carpentry was giving this kid instant high ground, which is not exactly good for me. How in the world was I supposed to compete with that? Well, actually, if you think about it, it's not that complicated. I had to figure out how, as the kids say, to crank 90s.
Bruh.
Help me!
So that's what I did. Actually, that simple. Even in business, you don't always have to creatively come up with every single solution. Sometimes you just have to find someone else who's already solved your problem and then just do what they're doing. There's nothing new under the sun, right? And what I found that other companies were doing was marketing. A lot. Everywhere I went, I saw them. I heard them on the radio. And of course, I saw them all over social media. And this was giving those companies high ground in the business world. But maybe this was the way I could blow up my business too. So I took some chances and I spent a lot of money on some different marketing campaigns to try and get the word out about my company. And they completely flopped.
No!
So maybe not all marketing campaigns are created equally after all. And maybe you can't build the exact same fort every time and expect to win. I had to adapt and figure out what was going to work for me and my company. So I thought about my company values and I decided I want to be different by really focusing on building long-term relationships with all of our clients. So we started doing things in our community like doing a bowling night. We showed up at a coffee shop and paid for everyone's coffee for a couple of hours. We even partnered with teachers at local schools to help them pay for their classrooms that year, just to name a couple of things that we did. Then we basically just told that story on social media, and that's what I found actually worked for me and for my company. So maybe you can't completely copy somebody else, but what I did learn is that you can just find someone else who's already been where you are, take their basic strategy, and then mold it to fit your vision and your values. It's the same thing in Fortnite. If you try to build the exact same way every single time, you're probably going to get countered and you're probably going to get wrecked. But being able to effectively communicate our story really boosts our revenues, but it took time to get this right and it took a lot of effort. And then we found ourselves in the right place at the right time. For us as a mortgage company, in 2020 and in 2021, interest rates were reduced to all-time lows. So if I was ever going to hit my goal of doing $1 million in a single year, now is my chance to take it, because you never know. The market could crash or the government could artificially crash our economy. And I might not get this chance again for a few years to come. So for me, it's now or never. The time had come for me to finally put what I had learned from Fortnite and my experiences into action. So I dropped into 2021, aka Tilted Towers, and I immediately remembered this was going to be a close quarters battle. So I had to go for the right weapon, shoddy. And in mortgages, primarily to this point, I've pretty much been helping people purchase a home. Since the rates were so low, the entire country is now eligible for a refinance. So that was the right tool for me to use. So I learned the ins and the outs of refinances, and I learned how to help save people an insane amount of money on their monthly payments while also helping them reach their financial goals. Once I was able to clear Tilted, I started to rotate. I needed to make sure that I was not going to get third-partied, and I could rotate correctly so I could pick up stragglers that were leaving their drop zones. I needed to make sure I was taking the right fights. The 80-20 rule. This was the wrong fight to take. You had always seen me coming, so I had to let this one go. This was a better fight to take. The place where I decided to focus my energy to try and maximize my production was actually a redesign of my calendar. I was running around like a crazy person. I was taking calls from clients, from underwriters, real estate agents. I was basically just trying to fight the loudest problem with no rhyme or reason. Kind of like this dude who tried to third party me. This definitely was not the most productive way to go about my day. So what I did is I left my normal work hours for things that required me to be on the phone. So talking to clients, or even potentially new clients. And what I did is at night, I did everything else that was like more operations based. So designing proposals, responding to emails, and actually doing the work that it takes to close a mortgage loan. This was a game changer for me. By saying no to certain things at the right time, my production skyrocketed. I was closing more loans than I ever had in my entire life, and I was still making time to actually run my business. And now that I had learned to build at a decent level in Fork Knife, I knew that I was going to have to use these skills to try and get an advantage. The zone was closing in, and the player count was falling. I knew things were about to get real spicy.
In the arms of the angel.
The same thing was happening in mortgages. The market was pretty hot in 2021, and what I realized is I started getting referrals from past clients as well as friends. And so the best way for me to try and build my business in 2021 was actually to double down on my clients by asking them for referrals throughout the loan process. This was the key that unlocked an insane amount of income for my company. Now was the time to crank some 90s on these kids. I had to win this fight or I may not actually hit my goals. And as I approached the final battle, I was in perfect position to third party these fools. I shot my final rocket, and by using all the things I had learned to this point, like using the right weapon at the right time, or by picking the right fights, or by trying to build or take high ground, I hit my shot. So I logged into my accounting software at the end of the year, and I realized that we did $1,009,000 of revenue. So I had just barely hit my goal.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
So maybe playing video games isn't completely useless after all. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other video where I learned to pay off $30,000 of debt by playing Rocket League.